I think a myth we should talk about is the myth that this is easy. And because it's fun, it's the greatest job in the universe. Because half of that is completely and utterly true. This is the greatest job. But it's hard work.
Yeah.
And, for me, one of the reasons that it was hard work, especially early on, and you were a little bit further down the road by the time I met you, was you put everything you have into your version 1. Mm-hmm. You pour your heart and soul into it, and you live with it, and you love it, and you don't want to play something for somebody that you don't believe in. And then you play them version 1, and it goes in the trash. And it is your job to see what it is they didn't like about version 1 and go home and pick yourself up and make a version 2. And the version 2 has to have every bit of the passion and every bit of the excitement and every bit of the inspiration that your version 1 had. Otherwise, the client will hear.
Yeah.
And that's really, really hard. And I had to make that adjustment of when your art becomes commerce, then it's completely subjective at that point. You can believe in it, you can think what you want about it, but the time you put a price tag on it, what you think about it doesn't matter as much anymore. And so the adjustment of saying, this guy doesn't know anything about music, and yet he is right because he's paying me to bring his project to life. That was really difficult for me. And, it's one of the hardest things.
So that transitions into one of my favorite things when I talk to young composers. Mm. And, they always want to know how they can get the jobs that you're getting. And what do I do? And I say, well, listen, the first thing I'm looking for is passion. I'm looking for not so much do you want to do this for a living, or is this something that you want to do, but is this something that you can't not do?
Right.
And that there's a big difference between somebody wanting to do something and somebody else who doesn't have a choice. Mm-hmm. I have to do this. This is who I am. And when you find that passion, it's that's going to be the fuel that gets you from version 1 to version 2 to version 3. This is who I am. This is what I do. Whether you're paying me or not is irrelevant. This is what I'm going to do anyway. And I think that's a real important part of this whole process that people need to know. This isn't a job, right? This is not a career path. This is somebody out there saying, you create something that I want to use and leverage as my widget, my product. And so at that point, you have to decide if it's for sale. You have to decide if you're going to part with that. And once you do, and once somebody hires you to do something, then it has to be, in a sense, depersonalized, and you're selling that part of your passion. And you're saying that this thing is for sale, and now whoever's buying it is right.
Yes.
And how you feel about that is going to have to take second place.
Take a back seat.
And that's a hard thing for some people to learn. Passionate people, and they figure this is my opus. This is this great piece of music, and then they submit it to the client, and the client goes, "Yeah, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think that's what we're looking for." And for that not to be taken extremely personally is a real hard lesson to learn. So in one sense, your passion is your fuel,
right?
But in another sense, that passion has to be separated from the job,
right?
So that you can actually finish the job and you can learn from what they're really looking for. And a lot of times, you're going to have to alter your music in such a way that it actually does serve the product.
One of the things that I learned about that was, as a young composer, I would go into a meeting with the agenda of, I need to tell the filmmaker what I have to say. And that was a mistake, because my agenda in the meeting is to go in and hear from the filmmaker what he needs from me. And that's just a different way of approaching it. When we're taking music inside and we're putting it outside, it's, here, look what I did.
Yeah.
And then when you say, oh, that's not my favorite flavor, I can say, well, fine. Or I can say, well, what don't you like about it? And how can I make it better next time? And so that's just maturity and understanding that gets you there after a while.
And you never really get great at that.
Never.
It's still hard. I mean, even in us, in our team, when we play something for each other the first time, you still feel like it's the first piece of music you've ever played for somebody. Right? Because a lot of times you do put a lot into it, and you're going, wow, wait till Tom hears this one. And then Tom's like, yeah, I don't get it.
That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah,
I think the other thing too is that and then the reality of this is you go to version 9, and then everybody runs out of time, and they go back to version 1 anyway. So a bad idea thrown in the trash, it has hope anyway. So for me, that's part of the joy of the thing too. Is it's so much work, it's so difficult, it's so personal, it's so risky from a personal. You put so much of yourself out there to be whipped, you know. But then when it's all done and the cue's signed off, and you've created a beautiful piece of music, and you know you gave it everything you had, and you know that all your buddies gave it everything they had to try to make your piece as good as it could, there's not a better feeling.
Yeah.